Good evening, everyone. This is a special edition from the Book of Armaments. This is a Merkava Mark IV with a brand new cope cage as seen in the current events which are going on. The cope cage is made by Butlers Printed models and it's cut down to size. It comes with the frame and then you use plastic meshing. I'm using anti-fly mesh to cover the top, and that gives you an example of the cope cage which is being used by the Israeli Defence Forces. Now you can mount this in various positions on the tank. It will go on Merkava Mark III, Merkava Mark IV, Merkava Mark IIs, and I have mounted it in this position to protect the top of the tank and still allow the spike missile, which is that round tube there, to be operational. So that's a consideration when mounting this. So that is the Merkava Mark IV by Hobbyboss with a Hobby Trans trophy conversion turret and the Butlers Printed model cope cage on the top. Now, if you're using a hairbrush to spray this, airbrush, then it will be much better than a brush painting as I have done. But I can't be bothered to go and set up the airbrush, so I brush paint a lot of stuff. They are rough and ready, but they are made to what appears to be a standard pattern. So let's have a look at what a cope cage is and what it isn't. So first of all, a cope cage is actually an anti-drone device, and it's much misunderstood, and there's lots of myths about what it does and what it doesn't do. So first of all, it won't stop a javelin because it's too spiky. Actually, it won't stop a javelin because a javelin has a top attack mode. And the javelin in a top attack mode using a heat warhead will generate a jet of molten metal which will penetrate the soft top armour of a tank. It also won't stop an EFP or explosively formed penetrator, such as the Lancet 3 Russian loitering munition. The reason for that is the explosion on this plate here forms effectively a bullet of high velocity moltenish metal, which again will penetrate the top armour. So people came to the conclusion that when cope cages were used by Russia, they were rubbish, and they said it was cope, and that's how they got the name cope cage. But I believe that to be a substantial misunderstanding of what a cope cage actually is. So if we turn over a page in the Book of Armaments, we can see what a cope cage actually does. And a cope cage is an anti-drone device. So here is Sammy the seagull, and here is a metaphorical cope cage, which is an umbrella. So Sammy the seagull, who represents a drone, is pooping onto the umbrella, the cope cage, just as an FPV or a drone, a civilian drone, operated by whoever's attacking the tank with either an anti-tank warhead or a grenade, is pooping onto the cope cage. The cope cage intercepts whatever's dropped, stops it from breaching the vulnerable top armour. And if it is an anti-tank warhead or a heat warhead, at least it's putting some distance in between it. So if the warhead lands here on the top of the cope cage and detonates, at least there will be some distance. But like I said, it won't stop an EFP because that molten slug is going to go straight through the cope cage and through the vulnerable top armour. Likewise, a heat warhead, when that detonates with the shape, is going to produce that molten jet of metal which will penetrate. So you have to think that the cope cage is a way of stopping simplistic anti-armour drones from being effective. Now, in the opening stages of the current war in Gaza, everyone probably saw that a Merkava was disabled by a very simple drone dropping a very simple warhead onto the engine block. And that's what the cope cage is designed to prevent. So the cope cage, rather than being a ha, look at that, it's cope, is actually a very effective anti-simple drone device. It's not designed to take on proper anti-armour weapons, and in my view that's why it got the name cope cage. Of course, when Ukraine used it, people stopped laughing, and now that Israel is using it, I think people are seeing the light. So this is a must-have fashion accessory for any tank in 2023, and thankfully Butlers have, for me, made it possible with this simple structure, which is printed in resin, to which you just apply some anti-fly or modelling mesh netting, cut it to shape, stick it on, and there you have a cope cage. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's been informative. Thank you for watching.